I think I got it this time. Hopefully you guys who were watching the last live, as it got screwed up, are going to come back and join me and Ashley for this one. So I should have done this properly where Ashley should be invited on here. Perfect. I have known each other probably a year now and always have great conversations. So I wanted to share one of our many great conversations with you guys this morning on speaking your truth, since we personally have a lot of experience with that, since we both strongly believe in speaking your truth, being authentic, being vulnerable, being transparent. So Ashley is currently being added. Like I mentioned in the last Facebook Live, Ashley has been a huge help for me getting through some really tough times where I was required to really speak my truth, and I was required to really identify what my truth even was, instead of listening to what other people told me was right, what I should be doing. I'm thinking especially in the context of my personal relationships. People will always have an opinion, right? And they want to tell you how to do things, and they want to, 3 times the charm. She is being added right now. I see adding. Ashley, if you want to, shit. No answer from the live video guest. So I'm going to try her again, but invite friends to watch. So Ashley, yes, identify your truth. So hard because we have to listen to so many other people's opinion of what our truth is. It's like we know our truth, and actually has to do with what I do. I need Ashley to watch it, and then I can invite her. But it's what I have to do about listening to your body, right? I'm always talking about communicating with our body. Perfect. Approve. So let's try this again. A lot of what I had to do to listen to my truth was actually just drop in. Ashley and I probably will talk about this. Yes. Thank you, Krista. Hey, I knew I'd get you. Unless you're frozen. That is true. She probably can request to be added. This is only maybe the 5th time I've done this, so I'm not pro at it. I don't really know what I'm doing. I appreciate your patience and your understanding. Hello, Stina. I never know who stays on or... You're frozen over there. Well, shit. I might have to start this one over again and just... This is why I leave ample time after my Facebook Lives. Because otherwise, kind of sucks for the people watching the recording, because they're like, Jess, where's your guest? I don't know technology, guys. Technology. Yeah. Ashley, what's the prob? Should I start this over again? It would suck if we weren't able to do this. I've been actually looking forward to this Facebook Live for a couple weeks. We were meant to do it a while ago. Cool, you are on.
Oh my goodness. Having a little bit of technical difficulty. I made it.
That's Facebook Live for you. Honestly, I feel like I haven't had one Facebook Live that hasn't had some sort of tech issue.
Oh, good. It's not just me then.
No, it's just every single time.
Yeah, my tripod broke, and then you were muted, and then I was frozen. So I'm just gonna trust that this is all as it needs to, and I'm just gonna hold up.
This is us speaking our truth. This is as authentic as you can get, right? The tripod breaks, this happens, the tech issues happen, it's all good. So I know we both really wanted to share this conversation, and I was mentioning before you got on, we've had a lot of really great conversations. I remember the last one, it was our stuff was parallel universes with us, and it was just really really a good, deep conversation, and it was about speaking our truth in relationships and how important that is, and maybe more importantly is how freaking hard it is, and that's not talked about enough. Is hey, this shit is really hard to be able to speak your truth and to know your truth. So before you got on too, I was talking about, this is something you can add to, I know, is how to know what your truth even is. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here and to be talking about this, because even still, I mean, the last time we talked was probably a good month ago, and it was such a huge theme in our own unfolding, and it's still been a big theme for me. And I'm realizing why it's so important and why it's so challenging is because it's really inviting us into sovereignty, into self-mastery, into really being responsible for our own shit and our own feelings. Yeah. It's been a really beautiful invitation for me. I think in the past there was such an emphasis around around speaking my truth, but like to certain people or to certain people that could hold certain space, and we can get into all of that in a bit. But I'm realizing just how much this has to do with really being responsible for our own embodiment, and that's kind of why we speak our truth. The words are a tool for embodiment. That's why we do it and why we want to do it. So getting to the bottom of our truth, figuring out what is our truth, is really getting clear on our embodiment. What energies are we embodying? What belief systems are we embodying? What story are we telling? And what story do we want to tell instead? Right in it.
Ash? God damn
Enough.
it. Okay.
You okay? Oh. Still here, Jess?
Are you crashing or is it just me?
Can you hear me
technology. Now? I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hear me. I see Stan's here and Melissa's here.
Do you have okay internet connection?
I do, yeah. I'm on my Wi-Fi at home and I can hear you.
I can hear you, you're just not moving, but
okay.
So you can continue. The audio is cutting in and out.
Okay.
It says it's Krista.
Okay, well just give me a heads up if you can't hear anymore. And thanks everyone for hanging around, for your patience. But yeah, how do we know what our truth is? There are so many ways to start learning how to listen to our truth. It's really a matter of creating space to become intimate with our inner self, with our highest self, with our soul, with our inner goddess, with our inner queen, whatever you want to call it. It's about cultivating that intimacy with ourselves. And that's so great because the more we cultivate that intimacy with ourselves, the more we're aware of what our truth really is, and the more we're able to also express that truth and be that truth in the world with confidence and conviction. So that's a muscle. That's a muscle that you grow, I feel like, and it's something that you can do in an infinite amount of ways. It could be anything. It could be journaling or dancing or, really doing anything that quiets your mind and connects you to who you are. And that's a feeling that can't even be captured in many words. But yeah, I feel like that's really what it's all about. And I feel so passionate about this and excited to learn more about this kind of mastery in my own life. And I love discussing it, with my clients and with peers and with friends and sisters like you. So thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to say too, you're frozen on my screen. So I'm listening and that's why I keep looking away because I can't see you moving and interacting with me.
Yeah, no worries.
So is anybody else see her as frozen? I'm wondering if I should invite you back on so that you're not frozen. Because what I love about Facebook Live is that it's interactive and you know what I mean? So can somebody comment Can somebody comment if that they see us both moving, if we're both animated, or if one of us is frozen? I see some. She's moving from me. Okay, I guess I just can't see you moving, Ashley, but I just know you're there. Yes on all of that. So yes on the embodiment. I think that's really hard for us to get into sometimes, especially I was saying before you got on, like so many people are trying to tell us what our truth really is. Oh, there you are. Perfect. So like for me, I know like I took one of your workshops, right? And like that was an opportunity for me to really drop in. It was a yoni workshop. And I had never experienced that sort of truth before. Like it was so in my face. Like I had a panic attack, right? Like it was so shaking, right? Because we ignore it so many times, because I think a lot of the time we don't want to speak our truth because of fear. And I wrote before, fear of rejection, fear of what somebody's going to say. I know every time I speak my truth in my personal, intimate relationship, like I can't eat. I'm completely freaked out. I don't know if I'm going to be received, but I know the alternative is my body will express it itself, right? Like it can manifest in physical ailments, right? And it can manifest in, you know, my body language. I'll just be more closed off. I'll be more withdrawn. So even though it's scary as hell, like it's just so important. And when we can open up that space, you sent me a quote and it was like, when we follow our truth or something, when we follow alignment, like everybody around us is served. It was something like beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, I have to remind myself of that every day. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was some like, you sent me multiple ones.
Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. And I love you for sharing that. I think it's important that people hear that message that you're sharing so that they can see themselves in you. I know that when you share that, I can see myself in you. I am so all about speaking the truth, being in your truth, living your truth, because I very much believe that truth and love are synonymous. So that's kind of where that quote comes from. Like, you live your truth and the entire planet is served. And you don't even know how or why. I'm sure there are so many specific examples that you can look back on in life and see, wow, I really showed up in my power. And that was such a blessing, not just for me, but for this person, for this person, for this person. I know that the more I heal in my life, like my family undergoes major healing and shifting. And they aren't even always aware of it, but I'm witnessing it happen. Like I reach a new level and all of a sudden I'm noticing that like my parents are going through like this really miraculous shift. So our ability to self-heal through love and truth literally alchemizes the past and the present. So not only are we healing the past, but we're healing our future lineage. And then not only that, but the collective consciousness as well. So it's so powerful. And your truth speaking is so powerful. And it doesn't always make it easy. And I feel like it's great that you can be authentic, and you're so authentic in this way. It's so beautiful and so vulnerable. And it's such a service to all of us, because it can be really scary to speak the truth, especially when we've been just programmed so much to shame it and to stifle it and to keep it inside. And then this fear is something that has been handed down to us from generations. And so sometimes we literally feel like we're going to die. Like if I say this thing that might not be popular, like my nervous system is going insane, and I really feel like I'm not going to die, but I feel like I might die.
So true.
You know, it's really intense. That feeling of rejection is just so primal. And so I think it's really beautiful that you're sharing, and it's something I've been moving through myself in intimate relationship, just feeling very challenged, which is a good thing, but very challenged to show up fully as myself. And there's so many pieces here that I'm receiving through that experience. But to kind of elaborate on what you're sharing, it's a beautiful opportunity to be there for yourself. You know, there is all the stuff around opening up to a partner and, you know, and even though you feel scared, not closing off and keeping your heart open and saying, it doesn't matter how gracefully I do this. It doesn't matter if it's fucking messy. It doesn't matter if I'm shaking and, you know, sitting in a puddle of my own sweat. What matters is that I'm expressing myself and I'm showing up. And there's just so much there for us to allow ourselves to do that with a partner, but there's so much there for us with ourselves as well. And it starts with ourselves, and it starts there. Holding space for ourselves. Like, is our inner child terrified when we're sharing our truth? I feel like that's such a great time for me to like embody that mother for myself and just love you, you're okay, I'm here, I'm alone. You know, and yeah, just a really sweet time of like self-love and self-acceptance and looking at myself and being like, oh, it's sort of uncomfortable to see myself, you know, not as confident as I am other times, or yeah, just not as perfect, not put together, just messy and vulnerable and shaky. And in those moments, I want to be loved so badly by the other person. You know, I want to know that I'm accepted so fucking badly. Like, I want that. There's part of me that really wants that validation, and that's where things get wonky for me. That's where things like I can get tripped up. So I've been really moving into this place of sharing and like trusting that I can be received and I'm not going to be too much, but also unattached to that, and just kind of knowing like I'm not too much for myself, and I'm not too intense for myself. I'm not too, you know, there's no such thing as me being too sensitive. I'm not wrong for this. And you know, there's definitely a relationship between the more I can deepen into that, and the more I can kind of receive that from another. I'm realizing how much my relationship with my truth sets the tone for the way I'm received in relationship when I'm speaking that.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, when you're already doubtful and you're already insecure about your truth, like if you're sharing something, it's when you say like, oh, I'm too sensitive, you know, that's such a fear of me of like, am I too much? I've been told so many times in my life, you're too much, you're too sensitive, you feel too much, you cry too much, you do this too much, you talk too much, you know. And while like, yeah, you should consider those things and, you know, manage that if it's really annoying somebody, right? But really also understanding that when you're in that state of insecurity and thinking like, am I too much? Am I too emotional? It's easy for that other person to make you feel even more so, right? So it's even more important to ground in and be like, I'm okay, this is legitimate. Like, these are my feelings. And I'm often saying in my relationship, like, I said this a week ago or something. I was like, I don't need to be right or wrong. I just want you to recognize that these are my feelings. So you don't need to tell me that I'm right. I just need you to know, like, that you understand me, that you hear me, you know, that my feelings aren't crazy. Like, feelings are, because maybe they say, oh, you're irrational, right? Which, yeah, like, feelings are generally sometimes irrational, right? But there's still a truth, and it still feels really good just to get it out. Even I noticed, even if I'm not received, even if like I feel like I wasn't completely heard, it still feels good to just express it, you know, and just to put it out there. And sometimes it'll take several days to really get through and penetrate through somebody, and they really hear you and they understand you and they can receive you a little bit better. Yeah, so it's definitely, it's not, like you said, like, it's fucking messy sometimes. Like, it doesn't always look clear and like, here, let me share my feelings with you. And they're like, oh, that's really beautiful. Like, let's work through that, right? Like, it doesn't work like that most of the time, at least.
Yeah.
Because their defense systems come up, right? Like, I've learned what words not to say to not make my partner immediately become defensive. Is a really good one, right? Like, their inner wounds come out when you start to make them feel like they're less than. So I noticed that's really important too, is just being able to convey it very clearly. Like, you're not wrong. I'm not saying you're a terrible person. I'm not saying that you're destructive. I'm just allowing you to hear what I have to say about my feelings and my experience in this situation.
I love that. And I'm wondering if you'll relate to this. Like, I feel like in the past, like I'm looking at past versions of myself, and I feel like in the past, I've I've got confused with what speaking the truth really is. Um, and
Mm.
there was the past where I thought I was speaking my truth, but it really was speaking my fears, like speaking my
Ooh,
fears.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, like all of my limiting beliefs, and it was more like
Hmm.
speaking projections. Um, and so that's been like a healthy way for me to start checking myself. Like, am I speaking my truth, or am I speaking what I think is true about the person in the situation? Am I speaking projection? And I'm realizing, just want to make sure my phone's plugged in here. I'm realizing like when I'm really truly speaking truth, it is easy for me to be received, assuming I'm with someone who is comfortable enough with his feelings so that he can hold enough space. Um, if I'm really speaking my truth, I'm most likely going to be received well because it's my truth. And it's like, this is how I feel. This is what I'm sensing. This is what's going on with me. And it's a lot less like getting in his energy, or heard. I mean, this is stuff that can be applied to every relationship. But I'm
Hmm.
kind of like watching myself because I'm so empathic. Like that's part of being sensitive. I'm so empathic. I'm so aware of the other person and the other person's shadows and the other person's karma. Like I'm a
Hmm.
healer. So when I'm in my own energy, I do well kind of compartmentalizing relationships. That's where things get sticky. That's where boundaries are important, especially as us empaths and highly sensitives and healers. It's really easy for me to like give away my power by going into his energy and then starting to feel into
Mm.
all of the that I'm seeing and things that I think he needs to clean
Oh,
up
yeah.
and his stuff. And so I'm realizing like when I really am speaking truth, it actually only be done when I'm in my own energy and in my power. And that's a shift that I feel, and that gives me clarity and confidence, and conviction in what I'm saying. And that's a shift that he can always feel, whoever this he is. Like he will always be able to feel. Um, I feel like things get tricky, and it's normal and it's human, and it's just the work that we're all doing, but things get like when we kind of move into that into the other field too much. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of a dance between like we want to be sovereign beings, and relationships are about interdependence, and so it's a container,
Hmm.
and we are sharing energy and exchanging energy here. So there's just so much around, yeah, boundaries and like energetic mastery when we're speaking our truth. And just constantly like checking in, for me at least, like, okay, is this mine? Is this mine? Is this mine? And is this the truth? Kind of just full circle going back to what you were saying. How do we know what our truth is? Well, the
Yeah.
more time we spend in our own fields, the more we kind of know what's ours, and we're just kind of able to own it and claim it. I feel with more confidence, and that's an
Yeah.
ever evolving, because yeah, I mean I'm with you. Like it's um even
It
I feel
makes,
like, oh, go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say it makes me like just the way you're explaining it makes me think of a post I wrote a while ago is like being the observer while you're speaking the truth as well. Because oftentimes I'll like start working through my truth while I'm saying it too, and I'm like, I feel this way, and this is like I'm analyzing it as I'm going through it, and
Yeah.
not feeling like I'm just like word vomiting all over them, and just staying completely peaceful as well as much as I can, like just trying to stay grounded and just being like I'm not getting attached to it, right? Like I'm just observing what's coming out. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm expressing, and not having expectations of how that's going to be either. Not having expectations of how they're going to react, I think is also really, really important.
Yeah, it's really huge. And I feel like, I'm not in a relationship right now. And so, there are men in my life, and I'm like dancing in and out of these containers with them. Um, And one of the things that I'm really questioning myself right now is like, what's the difference between being sovereign and having no expectation, right? Like you're saying, no attachment to how I'm going to be received, but yet like having the self-love to have like these certain non-negotiables in relationship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yep.
feel like I'm going into my Saturn return if I'm not already in it, and I'm at this point where I'm like totally deepening into my womanhood right now. And so truth is like so important to me because I'm like moving through all these beautiful layers. And like the speaking of the truth is a tool to like help me embody that like next layer, that deeper layer, that deeper layer. And, you know, it's kind of this thing that I'm like observing in myself where I'm like, okay, I don't want to like put my work on a man. My embodiment is like my responsibility. My to be in my truth is my responsibility. But yet, like, I totally want a man who's going to hold that space for me while I do the diving and
Oh my
exploring.
God, yeah.
You know? So I
So
think that
valuable.
it's also important to know like it's okay to desire that, and that there are men out there who can hold that space. And I feel like we don't need to take all of that on as well. I think that there's a thing that I know I can do as an empath and someone who cares about sovereignty and you know, being the creator of my life. Sometimes I can take on another person's shadow, I guess, as my own shortcoming. And so that's something I'm trying to work on too, kind of being with myself and being in my own energy, but then also answering truthfully, is this person here ready and willing and capable to go down the kind of path that I'm really desiring?
Yeah.
And I know
They have to have responsibility.
yeah.
Basically. You know what I mean? I think I so relate to that because oftentimes I'll be sharing my truth and sharing like an insecurity I have, for example, or like something that I'm not satisfied with and saying, well, maybe I'm not getting certain needs met. And then I pause for a minute and I'm like, well, maybe that's unrealistic. So then like, this is all my responsibility. Like, I just need to work on, you know, fulfilling those needs on my own, right? Like we take it on all ourselves versus if we have a partner that can recognize that and be like, wait, like, let me meet you where you're at. That's so important, and have them really understand like, all right, like let interdependence, right? So you're stronger together, and making sure like we're both independently working on our stuff and like taking as much personal independent responsibility as we can, but also seeing of how we can share some responsibility together, I think is so important.
I
Difficult.
love that.
A lot of people won't do it. I mean, in my past relationship, it didn't really work that way. Like you have to be with somebody in any relationship who's very aware and okay with letting down the barriers and the ego. I think we get so stuck in ego of like, this isn't my responsibility, or victim mindset, which I just like cannot. I cannot deal with people who are so stuck in victim and blaming. Yeah, so it helps to have the right person in that relationship in order to make that work. Like it's definitely not a one-sided thing.
Yeah, I love that. I just read something. Maria Forleo wrote a book about relationships, and I can't remember what it's called, but I was at Barnes and Noble and I was sifting through it, and she described relationships as what I believe they are, and which I believe you believe they are, containers for spiritual growth and healing, evolution.
Yeah.
You know, relationships help us move into our highest self. But she said that what ends up happening most of the time is like relationships become almost like a business transaction of like an exchange of needs. So like, oh, I need this. It just becomes kind of this like, yeah, like contractual, like business exchange kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that's where power plays start to happen. So it's like, oh, I'm not getting this, so like I'm gonna, you know, take this away, or you're giving me
tit
this
for
attitude.
tat.
Yeah. So not to stray off too far, but I was thinking about like what that means in terms of speaking the truth and being the truth. And I feel like this has kind of been an anchor for me. Like I can never really go wrong when my intention of expressing myself and sharing my truth is to evolve and grow and heal. I think that's a great way to kind of check in with ourselves too, because I think it
Mm-hmm.
does help to have intention. Um, because I am super feeling and super sensitive, and I love to talk and reflect. But I think that there are also times I can do that. Um, I can do that. I can kind of go within and do some more of that on my own, and I don't always necessarily have to go, um, share with the person that's in my life. I think when you feel called to,
Yes.
you that have to. I don't think that you necessarily have to all the time. I think there's a lot of stuff you can
True.
kind of like do on your own. So that's the intention thing has been huge for me too. Like, okay, well, what's my intention in sharing this piece of information? What am I
Mm-hmm.
desiring to receive? What am I desiring to accomplish? And if your intentions are pure and from the soul and from the heart, like you can't go wrong. That's another way to kind of surrender. Like, I'm really clear in my intentions and I'm not exactly sure how beautifully or elegantly this is going to be said, but I know my intentions are in a good place, and so the rest I'm just like surrendering to
Yeah.
the universe, you know.
That's true. And I think when you bring that intention, it's your just your energy comes across that way. Like I'm so conscious of, am I coming into an argument or something that might defend somebody or offend somebody rather? Like am I coming across as aggressive, right? But if my intention is like loving and patience and um, communication rather than domination, which I think a lot of people go into that when they're trying to speak their truth. They're like trying to dominate a conversation and just be like, this is what it is, and like I'm not budging from this, right? So it comes across as like really aggressive, and somebody's going to immediately want to defend themselves. Versus, right, like if you have this intention of like I just really want to be heard, I just want to be heard right now, then usually that person is going to have a much easier time receiving you and not have this kind of primal gut reaction to react. I also like that you say you don't have to share everything. That was a problem that I had in my past relationship. Like I would just like everything, but there are some things like you don't need to share everything with your partner or with your friend or whoever you're in a relationship with, right? Like there's some things that you can just work on your own, and then express it when it's more clear, when it really needs to be expressed, and understanding like when things really need to be expressed. Like I mentioned, I like it's my breath gets choppy. Like if I know I need to say something, it's like I like I'll do this sort of thing, and it just shows up in my body language everywhere. Like I'm completely like I can't be present. So that's when I know like all right, I need to say this thing. So I think that's really important to identify as well.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I feel like just with any topic, it comes back down to self love, really, and like
Mm-hmm.
energetically, our throat chakra is just so connected to like our sacral and to our self worth and our creativity and our sexuality. It's no wonder that women, do typically, I guess I don't want to generalize here, but it's not a wonder that many women do struggle with this piece around expressing themselves, because it is just so
Yeah.
connected to our self-worth and to, yeah, even like our creative and sexual energy that's just been kind of like shut down and stifled for so long. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's the speaking the truth again. It's like, it's, it's a piece of a larger puzzle, and like seeing where we're at with it is another great way to just check in, like where we're at with our self-love and our self-worth and being in our creative, sexual, expressive, radiant goddess selves. Um and I love it. I love that quote too. Like it's something about like just speaking the truth even if your voice shakes,
Yeah.
like it's really what it's about. It's about showing up for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other person matters and relationship matters for sure. Um so much good in there, but yeah, it's really about, it's about showing up for ourselves, and I think cultivating like deeper trust in ourselves too. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
really
we feel that
important.
stuff in our bodies. It's like we're craving ourselves, and it's like, okay, I'm here. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
and I think
the needs.
it's like when we're able to speak our truth too, and that's how we perform in our relationship. Like we're really able to be seen. That was really, really important and like dramatic in this new relationship that I entered last year. Was I was like I could be completely myself and express myself genuinely, and because I used to come to conversations more like dominating. And now, being with a more dominant alpha male, I'm learning how to drop into my feminine a little bit more and be a little bit softer in my approach. Um, but yeah, like I realize the more that even if I speak my truth and it's not received, like I just, initially at least, like I feel like I'm showing up in my most authentic version so that he can love me in my most authentic version. And that's like a love that I haven't experienced, I don't think, to this depth. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like when you speak your truth and when you can get it out there and they don't completely reject you, it's like, wow, like I'm not all these limiting beliefs I have in my head. I'm not too much. I'm not too emotional. Like they're there for me. Like they're strong. They're holding strong for me even when I'm shaking. It's amazing.
Oh, I'm so happy for you and love hearing that. And like, you're such a person I look to learn
Oh,
more about that. And you know, I'm still on my search. And but I will say on the flip side, it's not always easy, and I don't always do it gracefully. But I'm so committed to showing up in my truth. And the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018 was very messy for me. And I was, you know, in a sort of kind of relationship thing. And I had no choice but to be like, I'm going, I'm going through a thing. This is me. I feel messy. You know, I feel more insecure than usual. I just had a lot of growing pains. Um, and again, I can look back and I can see like, oh, you know, this is a shift that I'll do next time, or I would love to communicate this way next time. I'd love to, you know, there's just so many things that I'm seeing in hindsight. And yet the bottom line is that I did allow myself to be seen in all of my messiness and my
yeah.
vulnerability. And it didn't end up with me, you know, receiving that level of connection and closeness and like parallel growth that I envision will happen with that person who's gonna walk with me. And yet I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna hide all that truth, and you're gonna embody an illusion, and you're gonna play games and lie and trick
Oh my God, so
and
true.
manipulate. You're gonna be loved for someone that's not the highest embodiment of you, and that's a
So true.
lot to come. Yeah. So, um, you know, you give me so much strength, and it helps me kind of detach from my own timeline and just know like, yeah, my job is just to keep showing up, because how amazing is it going to feel when that person is like, hey, I love you right now just as you are, and I accept you right now just as you are. It's not about fixing you, and it's not about saving you. Just, yeah, I see who you are, and I still really like it. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm not.
for sure. I just had messaged you the other day when my partner had said that to me when I get wrapped up in my insecurities and everything, because this relationship in particular is like the complete opposite of what I've been in before, and like trying to adapt to a relationship that isn't founded in codependency and more like interdependence. And I know I had messaged you. He was just like, just be your best self. Like, just grow and learn and create value for people and show up and do your thing. And that's it. He's like, that's all you have to do. That's your highest self, and therefore like you will be received. Like that's when I noticed like our relationship is the absolute best, is when I'm doing my own thing, when I'm serving, when I'm connecting with clients, when I'm helping others, when I'm doing my hobbies, right? Like when I'm paddleboarding or I'm dancing or weightlifting, when I'm living my truth, not just speaking it, right? But living in what he calls alignment. So when I'm living in alignment with myself, I like the relationship is just so much better. Like there's no conflict. It's just like easy, it's truth, it's natural, it's love. And it's so confirming for me because we often think like we have to change ourselves or we think that we have to fix the other person. Was something I got caught up in a lot. I would get with guys who I thought like I needed to help. And I know like as empaths, it's like, oh, I need to help this person. Like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, I need to be in a relationship with them so I can solve all their problems. It's like, that's not healthy, and it becomes dangerous and toxic to both parties, because then you can enable them as well, you know, if you're trying to take on all their shit. So yeah, I hear you on all that.
I love that. There's so much good in there. And I feel like that's really what it's about. And I feel like any healthy, like self-loving, balanced man, you know, not a perfect man, but a man who's like generally there. He just wants a happy woman, a magnetic woman, a woman who's in her queen and in her goddess. And so that really is our job. It's to have fun and play and be our magical, magnetic selves. And there's a lot of power in that too. I think when we're in our mind and we're stressing out so much, you know, and you're really a huge advocate of this kind of thing too. It's like, go move, go play, go have fun,
go play,
explore. Yeah, like come back to yourself.
Exactly, come back to yourself. So important. I tell him like I need to go lock myself in my room for a practice. I know I've talked to you about my MMM practice. Like I need to go lock myself in there and like come back to myself. And like last night I did that. And sometimes it's like listening to fun Goldfrapp and Led Zeppelin and dancing. And sometimes it's like crazy Slipknot, like headbanging and like thrashing and just like expressing anger and like just craziness. So yeah, and then every time I leave my bedroom, like I'll literally lock my door, even if nobody's in the house. Like it's just I need to go inside here for a minute, right? And then I come out and I'm always so much lighter, like once I do it, and then I can show up better. I'm not holding on to stuff and then bringing it into the conversation. Like I'm working on my own shit. And that's like our only job, right? Is to have more self-love and improve our self-worth, and don't depend on somebody to do that for us.
Yeah.
Either is really important. We're getting a lot of comments on here as well, which I try not to stop and read them so they don't interrupt our flow, but we got a lot of stuff here. When all our tech issues were happening, which is so fun. Yeah, so it's good we got it working. Audio is... Krista was saying there's so many degrees of speaking truth, using the intuition to know how and when and how much. Yeah, it like Ashley said, it's a practice. It's like an art. You just have to keep doing it and you'll get better at it. And sometimes it looks really messy, but yeah. So Krista also said, I feel the most vulnerable about speaking my truth when I'm not secure in that truth for myself, or when I don't know my audience well enough to believe I'll be accepted. And I think that's what you were saying too. Like we have such a primal need to be accepted, right? We're tribe animals, so we're meant to be accepted. Like we need to be accepted in order to survive. So yeah, and I think getting secure in that truth helps so much. Like for me, I might hold on to something that I don't want to express yet for several days, and if it keeps coming up for me, like if I can't get it off my mind, then I'm like, all right, something needs to be said. Like there's something deeper here. So love from a partner is the safety net for trapeze artists that allows them to safely find who they truly are without fear of judgment. That's so sweet. I actually know his wife, and that's great. That's so true. It's like giving them the space to feel safe to express themselves. I feel a lot of our personal private truths are more common than we realize. Yes, I've been learning this firsthand more and more as time goes on. And I think that's a good point too, Krista, is that when you express yourself and can show up fully as yourself, you're giving other people permission to do the same. I think that's really important. It's kind of living your truth, right? Like our values are truth and authenticity. So when we do that, we're kind of giving the permission to the other person to do the same. Such a fine line. It's like we are helping each other become the greatest versions of ourselves. Yeah. So not trying to fix everybody, but still give them enough a support and encouragement as we can. Encouragement without expectation. Yeah, true. Because I got stuck in this mindset of, I call my partner boss man all the time, and I say, "Oh, like boss man, you're doing all these big things." Then I'm like, I'm not at your level, right? And I think like I have to compete with him, and like if I'm not where he's at, then somehow I'm failing, right? Because he's always encouraging me to do better, but he doesn't have this expectation that I'm gonna make $1 million a year or whatever, and neither do I. Like it's not really a goal of mine in my business. So yeah, encouraging somebody, but not having expectations of what that looks like for them. That was really hard for me to accept. Like, oh, like he doesn't have an expectations of how much I'm supposed to make in my business, or what I'm supposed to look like, or how I'm supposed to behave in this situation. All I have to worry about is just being my best self in those situations and trying my best, and it will naturally come out the way that it's going to come out.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, a thing I do with my clients is like I hold my clients in the light of their highest selves while unconditionally loving them for who they are and where they're at. And that's something you kind of said earlier, having a partner who's going to meet you where you're at, and also having the love necessary to meet your partner where he's at. So that's a dance too, just like holding each other and yourselves in your highest light, while also just kind of loving the moment. And then I'm going to have to wrap up soon. But another piece that was coming through that I'd really love to share is like, the more we're able to also listen, to really listen, this is something that I am really inviting in because I have a lot of work. And yeah, the more we can really listen to our partner without judgment and without thinking that we know best, and without thinking we already know that, because we're so intuitive as women, and it's great. We're so tuned on, we're so turned on, we can see so much. But I think it really serves us to like completely wipe that slate clean and to really listen and be curious and to like receive a man, because let's not forget how much men really desire that as well. Like,
oh my God, yes,
want to be loved unconditionally. They want to feel good enough. Like they want to feel safe and secure as well. And so, that's the other piece that's so huge too, as well. We want to be received and loved and held. And I think in the past there was this immature, like past part of me that was like kind of bargaining, it was that like transactional relationship that I was saying before, like, oh, well, I'm going to open up to you if you can hold space for me, or I'm going to really hold space for you if I feel safe enough, like you're going to hold space for me. And I'm realizing, getting messages here. I'm realizing another piece of calling that in for myself is offering it without condition.
Yes.
And really powerful for me.
That's so true. I was just going to say without condition, like without this kind of balancing the ways and the scales, right? And like weighing everything, but just, yeah. And I love that you said about with men too, like men really want to be received too. We have this vision of like I consider myself with a very more masculine man, but really like he's soft in his core, right? And he really wants to be seen and heard and loved as well. Like just because, we want masculine men, it doesn't mean that they are always going to be, I don't know the word for it, more strong, I guess. I feel like that's the wrong word for it, but that they need to be vulnerable too. And we need to not judge them for that and be like, why are you sharing all these feelings with me? Like, I don't understand, right? Like we can start to be judgmental, but really be able to receive a man in his vulnerability, especially really masculine man, because they won't do that with everybody, and really honoring that and listening and being like, I hear you, I'm here for you. I think it's really
important. I would argue like it's probably whether he's conscious of it or not, or they're conscious of it or not, it's probably one of like the biggest things they're looking for in relationship with women because they go out and they live their life having to be so strong, you know, and sometimes so stoic, because
Yeah,
of
that's a good
the
word for it.
pressure, whatever. Yeah, like they're that rock, you know. And I feel like with a woman who they feel safe with, that's probably one of the few places where they really can let that guard down and be soft. And yeah, I feel like the more, it's just amazing the way energy works. It's like the more we're confident and comfortable in our own vulnerability, the more he's also going to trust us to open up too. It's like we really kind of set that for him, you know, like, okay, I feel safe with myself in this way, and I feel safe with you in this way, and I'm going to trust you. Yeah, more often than not, like if you're with the right guy, like that's going to follow. And so I also think that there's like an ingredient of faith too. Maybe when we're starting a new relationship, or we are in a relationship that we're excited to shift, you know, like keep showing up, keep being vulnerable, and don't give up if you're not getting that desired result right away either. You know, like if you notice that he's still kind of uncomfortable and he's kind of like wavering or isn't sure what to make, you know, I feel like, yeah, just self-love, self-acceptance, and easier said than done, obviously. But, you know, I feel like there's something to be said about faith and continuing to show up and being curious again. And I think sometimes it might take a little bit of time. And of course, that's a whole other topic, you know. You know, do we invest and do we go all in? But I don't think that, you know, if I don't think you know what's possible until you consistently do go all in for a little bit and kind of just fully open your heart and surrender.
That is true. That is true. That's the hard part. And Krista mentioned, I'm assuming you said, I don't want a masculine man. I want a man who can be vulnerable with me as I am with him. I consider masculine men very vulnerable, but like we're saying, like it's only with a very limited amount of people, like maybe his family, one close friend. I joke that my partner has a husband, like it's his best friend from like forever years. So I think masculine men are absolutely vulnerable. And I actually had this negative relationship with masculine men because I thought that they were too hard and stoic and like they just had to be, kind of have this armor around them. But I realized like real strong masculine men are able to be vulnerable and able to share their truth and able to be really committed to the relationship and committed to their woman and committed to sharing their truth. I feel like that really makes also masculine man. I know you said you have to go soon, and I'm not sure of the timing of this. Usually I do like 30, 45 minutes. What time are we at? You got to jump off?
I think it's almost 11. Yep, it's 10:50. I know. That's how our conversations usually go. There's just so much juicy stuff to dive into. So yeah, I feel like this is a good time to leave off, but I'm so glad that we were able to move through the tech issues and be together today and to have all these amazing listeners. I'm really excited to go back and read all these comments. And yeah, it just felt really great to express some truth in such a safe place today.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys got some value. And Krista just said, I don't want a stereotypical masculine man. That's good. Like you're totally right on that. Like we have a stereotypical idea of what a masculine man is. I had to reprogram what that meant for me personally. And it's a really healthy place, I think, to get with this kind of masculine feminine dynamic, which I'm constantly trying to like get rid of all my shit around how I feel around men. I know we've had conversations about that. So hopefully you guys got lots of value from this and it made you think about your own relationships and, you know, how you want to start approaching your own conversations. And probably we'll do another Facebook Live in a couple months if you want to, because obviously I love talking with you. So thank you guys for connecting. Add Ashley as a friend on her Facebook because you put out great writing. Like I share it with Jason all the time. Like, look at what Ashley wrote. It's so good. It just connects to me so much. He's like, okay.
Well, thank you. Oh, thank you. Right back at you. Thank you so much. And yeah, please leave any questions you guys have. And so excited to connect. Thank you so much, Jess. Today was amazing. I had so much fun.
Thank you. Bye, guys.